the virus that sounds like a beer. I'm going to try not to say it directly because I think YouTube is actually demonetizing literally just the word of the drink that is also suffering sales losses right now because everyone's like, oh, that's the same thing. It's like, yeah,
Stupid.
It's like when
No, it really is a thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. I'm just going to try not to say it. The virus that is from a province in Asia, the largest country in Asia, sent world share markets crashing again on Friday, compounding their worst week since the 2008 financial crisis. I'm sure it's not a harbinger of things to come, and bringing the wipeout in terms of value to $5 trillion. So just like that, 5 trillion imaginary dollaroos are gone in the world that never really existed in the first place. Anyway, hopes that the epidemic that started in a country in Asia would be over in months and that economic activity would quickly return to normal have been shattered this week as the number of international cases have spiraled. Bets are now that the Federal Reserve will cut U.S. interest rates from what, 0% to -2? What are they going to do?
I hope so.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't have money for college education, but we can just give you $1.5 trillion because reasons. As soon as next month, and other major central banks will follow. And we actually did a story about this a while back, that they've cut the rates so much they really just can't go further at this point. So what are they going to do? Cut it? They can't cut it below 0. That's only Japan gets to do that.
Prematurely cut the rates.
Yeah.
Also?
And so that's what I'm saying. They're like, okay, like 3 months ago, they're like, okay, we're going to go from 10 feet away from the edge of the cliff to 2 feet. And now they're like, okay, we're going to have the back of our heels kind of precariously balancing off the edge of the cliff. We'll be fine. I promise. There's no falling. We'll continue. Nothing bad could happen. And remember, this is now a new bubble. We've talked in the past about all the different bubbles that could burst. None of us thought that a beer could cause all of this to happen.
And a delicious one at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really love beer,
it's
but
sickeningly delicious.
it's real good.
I think this is the new pandemic special. So bets are. Sorry, we talked about that. So now we're talking about how this could cause a global recession. I did not think. We've talked for so long in the last year about all the things. Will it be the car loans? Will it be the housing bubble? Will it be the stock? No, it's a beer that causes all of this. And again, I'm speaking in code because I have to because of YouTube. These are highly uncertain times. No one really knows the answer, and these markets are panicking. Disruptions to the international travel and supply chain, school closures, and cancellation of major events have all blackened the outlook for the world economy that was already struggling with the U.S.-China trade war and the fall of the index, which tracks almost 50 countries, was down 1% in Europe and almost 10% down in the week, the worst since 2008. And again, nothing major financially bad happened in 2008. So
everything was peachy. Yeah. Everything was great, guys.
So they have.
Oh yeah.
So the stock market.
With affection.
Yeah. So shares have dropped 12% since hitting a record high 9 days ago, and they don't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Yeah. Japan's index slumped by 4.3% on rising fears that the Olympics, which they spent a lot of money on from July to August, might be called off due to this terrible beer infestation. And the beer infestation is now looking more and more like a pandemic. So, guys, what do you guys think of this beer infestation that we're dealing with?
All I know is that when Father Nurgle was working on his cauldron for this special beer virus, he really made sure that everyone would enjoy his joyous gifts. Isha's tears, may we find a cure. No, but all serious though, I would never assume that a virus.
95% serious.
Yeah, 95%. None
plus
of us,
or minus.
Yeah, plus or minus, give or take. I would never assume that something like this would cause the markets to collapse or fail. But looking back on it too, Daniel. No, we've even mentioned that even the most minute things can actually cause instability in the market.
Yeah.
This was way back in the radio days. Because I'm looking back on the time, just remembering back to the times when we were on the radio. Yeah, I mean, we were looking at the bubbles popping, but anything could happen because the market was never fixed in 2008. And we're not looking at a recession. If things remain as they are, we got a perfect storm that's brewing. And what I mean by this is that one more misstep, and we're not looking at a recession, we're looking at a depression, the likes of which we've never seen before, save for what happened in the late 1920s, early 1930s. And a lot of people are going to get hurt. And with this, pandemic that's happening right now, the United States is a perfect breeding ground. Now, hear me out.
Good thing all our citizens have
Right.
universal health
I know, that's what I was
Right,
thinking. I was
right,
like,
right.
and what happens
Right,
when
right.
nobody can actually afford anything?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, one, we can't afford to go to hospitals. People are working 2 or 3 jobs.
All those
just to make
fast
ends
food
meet.
workers just have to keep going.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
well,
the thing
they
is,
bet
we,
they
we
should
don't,
just
we
tie
don't
up
have,
their bootstraps and get their asses
We do
to
not
work.
have sick leave. We do not have sick leave.
Nope.
People are going to get sick, and sadly, across America, because we have this cult of hard work mentality, people are going to show up to work sick, and the things get spread out even further. And it's really horrible to know that even the institutions at the federal level, we are not prepared for this. In fact, because of Bolton's previous policies before he was released, he cut away much needed resources and facilities that could have dealt with a situation
CDC
like this.
just got a 40% cut right when we needed it too.
Right, well, I was also gonna
so we're
say-
going to get hurt, and whether we like it or not, I mean, this is going to be a real reality, and there's nothing really we can do about it. When Daniel and I were talking about later after the show with Paul, it's like we just all came down to the same conclusion. You're breezing it in already. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that putting Mike Pence in charge of everything really
Oh,
bolstered the
boy.
confidence of a lot of these people who are investing in the stock market. So that
he handled that AIDS crisis so well.
he did, and I mean the lies that are coming out that are just so blatant. I'm sure that also really, like I said, just bolsters that confidence
check
that
with
we need
Mother.
in our stock market, right? And then the other piece of it, every time something like this happens in the stock market, and this is a free fall of the stock
Yeah.
market. We haven't really seen this kind of fall
Since
I don't
08.
think.
Since 08,
Since
yeah.
08, okay. And every time something like this happens, I do always think to myself, like, being poor is not so bad.
It's like now just more people. Again, this is the other thing I've been saying earlier on, that if a recession hits, Sanders wins. Just based on his policy. So there's that. So there you go. But no, let's be real. I'm going to give you some numbers that I've made up off the top of my head, but seem realistic to me based on what we've been talking about. This, and then we have a super chat. Actually, this fits right in from Mad Wolf. Thank you for the $2. Just call it the Crown virus. I like that. That's a lot easier. Though I do like the beer pandemic.
Although,
Yeah.
isn't Crown Royale a drink?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, the Crown virus.
Could use some
I'm still going to call it the beer pandemic. I
Yeah.
think that's a
The
little more.
beer pandemic.
I think let's call them. You can use either one. The beer pandemic. I think either one will get around YouTube, and that's the main point of this. So the beer pandemic will. It seems like so we see them comparing it to H1N1, and that was crazy in terms of how much it spread. The mortality rate was much lower, and this seems to have a much higher spread rate, much higher mortality rate. I mean, relatively, it still seems like 1% to 2%. But if it spreads to just half the planet, the U.S. will probably lose like 3 to 4 million people. I mean, it's a number. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like Spanish flu level, where it's like at some degree, like a pandemic is due to happen, and if this is it, this is it. I mean, what are you gonna say?
There's nothing you could really. This is an overwhelming power of nature, and the thing is, nature has checks and balances, and I can't help but think of, all the times in human history where we've had situations like this, and it's nothing new. We just haven't seen it before, like at this level, in a very long time. And, as a species, we have dominated this planet for a very long time, and we have controlled nature and all the resources here. But there's always going to be a pushback. Nature has checks and balances. If a species becomes too dominant, well, something comes along to take it out or control the population. It's a sad fact about living on this planet, survival of the fittest, unfortunately, and we have to live with this new reality. We not only do we have to live with climate change, but we have to live with the fact that this current pandemic that's happening, this beer virus situation. Good term on that, Daniel.
Thank you.
I
try.
This beer virus pandemic that we have to remember that because of our globalized society, it's already getting around, it's already getting out there, and we just have to be extra careful and be mindful. But this is something that's going to have a long-lasting impact, not only on our economy, but also on our society and how we actually interact with each other as societies, as countries. We have to be better, but we also have to be prepared for how this is going to shake things up. And this is why we got to get involved in this election cycle so that we can, reinvest into these institutions like the CDC, not cutting it by 40%. Bolton, everyone's hero for the impeachment trial. Bolton, the guy who did it. Bolton,
Maybe
the
he-
one who did it.
Maybe he's talking about it in his book.
Oh yeah, like hey, it's not about impeachment. Let me tell you about war. Hold on, I gotta get a brush from
He's so much better if you're talking about Michael Bolton right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wouldn't be better. Yeah,
It's gonna
Bolton.
be it's gonna be crazy because it's like, you know, I'm a relatively young guy. I'm only a quarter century old plus a few years, but you know, I've never lived through an epidemic like of this nature. Like H1N1 was a big scare, but ultimately not much happened. Like this is something that, you know, before vaccines were just far more common than they were now, but you know, we still have.
Oh yeah, that's
This
right. You got
is-
anti-vaxxers out there. People are gonna be like, I don't want to get vaccinated. It's like,
Thanks, guys. You just killed a bunch of people. Appreciate it. Okay, thanks. But this is gonna suck. And if it keeps moving the way it is, and it just takes off, I mean,
yeah.
what are we gonna do? I mean, we really can't.
And this is-
Literally like this is as time goes on, it gets worse because people are so interconnected. All it takes is one person on a plane. And that's
right.
it.
And hold on, there's actually a super chat from Kate, and it's very relevant. A friend is a tour guide in Italy. It is a real problem for the upcoming tourist season. Most tourists are Chinese. People are canceling. And you know what?
Right.
Even looking back at my short
There-
vacation
kills-
in Japan, it's like my final weeks there is when like there was talk of this, you know, pandemic happening, you know, the beer virus. And it's just I didn't think nothing of it at the time. But even talking with my own relatives there, it's like, you know, wait a minute, something seems odd about this, and it doesn't seem right. And even coming back here to the States, look, I'm worried about them because they live in Japan. I got a lot of friends and family that live in Japan. It's over there on that side of the world, and the very fact that you even have this one person talking about a cure, but oh wait, we got to get the health insurance and pharmaceutical insurance industries involved in because they got to make guess what? They got to make a profit. They need to make that money. Wait, save the people. But what about profit?
By the
Profit,
way, on
profit.
that note, there was a panel that happened recently, and that the drug companies were like, "Oh no, we're going to charge people a lot of money to get tested for this," and I'm like, "Oh, that's great. That'll help."
Do any of you have $3,000 or
They
$1,000?
see it and they're like just dollar
available?
signs
Yeah.
in their eyes.
Like,
you
yeah,
know?
we need money.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. This to the rich people who think they're going to be safe, you won't be safe because viruses don't care who you are or how much money you have. Viruses mutate, and if you don't start taking care of people, guess what? You leave yourself open as a target. And there's no such, and especially in nature with viruses, they don't care. We don't know why they don't care because they don't have emotions or feelings. They're just doing their job in an ecosystem, and everyone's an open target. We're already going to have to deal with it. Just be better. But no, asking these sociopaths to be better is asking a lot because that's what? That means they have to become human.
Ironically, like the people that make the wealthy people that make the most money off all this happening, like the disaster capitalism, ironically, remain in power, remain able to do what they're doing because, well, where their votes come from generally are for people 65 plus, which ironically are the people that are the most vulnerable to this disease. And again, it's like, I feel like I'm watching like this giant hurricane just like coming forward towards us. And I just like, I've never lived through one of these. And again, maybe it just dies off for whatever reason. I don't know that, but maybe it mutates and gets worse. It's just,
Well, it's kind of insidious when you really look at it. I mean, you don't even know you have the symptoms until it's too late.
is that people that's like in like that big Asian country that we were talking about earlier with the factories and such, that like there are people that are like taking pills to fake not being sick. There are people on airlines that they're like, oh, the plane's contaminated, well, I'm gonna sneak off and go do what I was gonna do anyway because I'm selfish. And you keep seeing that. All it takes is a person for something that is this contagious that if you touch a surface, it's on there for like what, 3 or 4 days. I mean, people are saying it. I saw a few people saying it's not airborne. I mean, it's everything but airborne. It's so easy to move from place to place. And again, all it takes is a typhoid Mary of some kind. All it takes is a fast food worker that has it for the 14 days without noticing it, and then all of a sudden, boom, 3,000 cases, 5,000 cases.
Don't cause panic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and again, all of the things that are going to be the natural counters to this are going to tank all the economies of the world.
Yes.
So just to rewind back the clocks, in 2018, I caught a bad case of pneumonia, And I got it from probably a coworker who was even showing up there sick, and that's probably what happened. And the very fact that people who show up to work sick, stuff gets spread around, and we can't afford that in this country. But sadly, it is a fact, and it's only it's only a matter of time before it does get here in the States. I mean, even in California right now, a lot of people are being, tested as we speak, and so this isn't a good thing. I mean, there's already one person, early in January where somebody in Chicago has it, and they're still being quarantined. I mean, this is not a good thing. So
it's definitely something to take seriously, and it's also something to not freak out about. Kind of straddling that line,
and at
right?
some point, like, one of my philosophies in this world is if you can't do anything about it, don't worry. There's literally this is something that is already going to take its course. There's going to be people that die. It's going to cause economic devastation. It's already in motion. The pieces have already been put together, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Just do the things you can in your daily life to mitigate it for yourself. But it's already, in a sense, if we look at this situation a year in the future, looking back, it's already happened. Yeah. So there's no reason to freak out about it now.
And wash your hands and don't touch your face is some of our advice on the chat thread.
Absolutely.
So I touch my face a lot, so thank you for that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So